I'm not here 'cause someone told me one day I could be a star if I just write songs that everybody likes. I make my way to Hollywood. I'm not here for your opinion. I'm not here to make you smile. I don't doubt that your intention differ from what I've been told before. I lay my heart on paper. You can't buy my words, they're not for sale. Will you remember me when you don't see my face on magazine? Will you remember me when I'm gone? 'Cause I'm not Hollywood. Whoa, whoa. 'Cause I'm not Hollywood. Whoa, whoa. I'm not here 'cause someone gave me $1 million in a brand new car. I show stars and pieces on this life I live, the things I've done. I'm not here to tell your story. I'll never sing your songs. I'm not here so you can make me into something that I've never been before. I lay my heart on paper. You can't buy my soul. It's not for sale. Will you remember me when you don't see my face on a magazine? Will you remember me when I'm gone? 'Cause I'm not Hollywood, but my life's just a memory. Will anything I'm giving matter at all? Will you catch me when I fall? 'Cause I'm not Hollywood. Will you remember me when you don't see my face on a magazine? Will you remember me when I'm gone? 'Cause I'm not Hollywood, but my life's just a memory. Will anything I'm giving matter at all? Will you catch me when I fall? 'Cause I'm not Hollywood. Whoa, whoa. 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 'Cause I'm not Hollywood. Will you remember me when you don't see my face on a magazine? Will you remember me when I'm gone? Oh, 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 oh.
Trying to hold us off, and Nexus is probably going to be going down that one Colossi, and there's some ridiculously lagging. GG!
Nice. And those Vikings are going to focus down. All those Colossi are probably going to go down.
Yeah, he doesn't even have Blink yet.
Welcome everybody to the second series of the playoffs for the Indie Starcraft Team League. I am Vindicare, and with me today is our special guest, JMorrow. JMorrow, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. I know that like everyone is right now going through like a real bad heat wave, but it is still absolutely beautiful out here in Southern California. It's a nice like 80-degree day, even though I'm sitting inside casting Starcraft games with you today. I am actually really excited for this series. We've got two great teams today. We've got Team Impulse Esports versus mYintent. I was going to take a moment just to talk about Team Impulse real quick, and then I guess you could hype up mYintent after I'm done. Impulse, if you guys haven't been following, is actually the host team for the Indie Starcraft Team League, which makes them, of course, like a favorite for someone like me, because like without them, like this whole tournament wouldn't actually be going on and all. They've got a lot of really, really good players. They've got guys like Magic, Hyper, Deceive, Duster, who's not going to be here, even though because he's going to be playing in the Canadian WCS pretty soon. All sorts of really good players, and they are going up against a really strong team in mYintent. What can you tell us about mYintent, JMorrow?
Well, actually, I got to witness them playing in one of the previous weeks. I actually got to see Shinya play, and I'm very, very impressed. Actually, I was casting with none other than Buddha, and he was telling me a little bit of their styles and different things, and we saw some really impressive things that ended up helping them quite a bit along the way in the series. So I'm really excited to see them play again.
Yeah, that is. I think they went up against team. No, they weren't. It wasn't metagaming in the round previous. I'm trying to remember like which team mYintent actually knocked out in the previous series. But all the teams that have been in the playoffs so far have all been really strong teams. Like nothing but good series so far in the playoffs for the Indie Starcraft Team League. So hopefully this series will be just as good. We are going to be starting this off with an absolutely crazy matchup. We've got Magic coming out for Team Impulse to start this off, and also Shinya coming out for Team mYintent. So you were just mentioning Shinya right now, and Magic is a Grandmaster this season, I believe. I'm actually going to check his profile just to make sure. Yeah, he is actually a rank 141 Grandmaster with an even win rate and loss ratio, which is really impressive for Grandmasters League. So Magic's a really strong Zerg player, but he is going up against Shinya, and Shinya did have that great run in the previous round.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get to see some of Shinya's styles. I mean, he definitely does some kind of wonky builds, but somehow he makes it work. It reminds me of almost like MC. MC just kind of does whatever he wants, and somehow it works, and I feel like Shinya is following in his footsteps.
I love players that have their own style like that. Like they stick to their own style, and it's through their own skill and experience with that style that they just make it work, even though like other players like might not be able to get it working for themselves. So like I love players that have that kind of like stylistic approach to StarCraft 2. It's definitely fun to watch. But I think we actually have all of our players ready. I think we are just about ready to get into this first game. It is going to be on Cloud Kingdom, and we've seen so many games on this map so far this series, this season. So I really like this map for Protoss vs. Zerg. I don't know about you, JMorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really good map. I mean, of course, Zergs are able to take a quick third, and, they have a direct path for their creep spread so they can get good connections to play defensive. And whereas Protoss, I mean, right now, the metagame for Protoss is the Gate Robo expand, and then they're able to take a third on this map as well. So, we might see that, but knowing Shinya, I don't know if we're actually going to get to see it go to the third base.
You think it's just going to turn into a big two-base timing attack? Is that what you're actually calling for this game?
I'm thinking we're going to see Charge Lots and Archons, because that's pretty much all we saw last time, along with the Mothership. So, I don't know what to expect from Shinya. We could see Mass Void Ray. I don't even know. I don't even want to try and predict what he's going to do.
Well, that Charizard Archon build is actually really strong, especially if you follow it up with the Mothership. The Mothership is obviously 10 times more powerful when you have it out on the field with Archons, actually, too. And I actually love Zealots in Protoss vs. Zerg myself when I'm playing. I was actually having this argument, I think, with Buddha very early on in the season, where I said that Chargelots, I think, are actually really underrated in the matchup. He didn't agree with that at all. I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, the Charge Lots, it's surprising that with Charge, they're better against Infestors. It's kind of bizarre, because usually when you see Mass Zealot, the first thing that Zerg tend to do is either go Mass Roach, or Mass Infestor, or even Banelings. But with Infestor, if you have the Charge ability, they're able to split apart, and they actually don't get all caught in one fungal. So I would like to see people experiment with more. We've had people criticize different units in the past, and then somebody comes out and uses it in a tournament and wins because of it. So, I mean, just you saying that, you could be calling somebody could do that in the future and end up taking down, DRG or, somebody crazy.
Well, we'll have to actually see if that'll actually happen eventually in the future. I really hope it does. But for right now, we do have two really good players that need introductions. Or maybe they don't. I don't actually know. I don't know if these guys actually need introductions. They are that good. We have our Protoss player spawning up here in the top right position on the map, Cloud Kingdom. For Team mYintent, he is Shinya.
And for Team Impulse, spawning down in the southwest corner, we do have Magic as our proper colored blue Zerg. And it looks like right now he is saving up quite a bit of money here. You know, what's your opinion as far as going hatchery first versus spawning pool first against Protoss?
It is so funny that you say that, because for my own solo stream, I've actually done numerous casts where I point out like all of the hazards for Zerg going for hatch first against Protoss. I actually don't believe in it myself. I don't think it's a very safe opening at all, especially too because Shinya already does have that forge down. Were Magic going for that hatchery first, it would be so easy for Shinya to apply photon cannon pressure to it, and it would be so difficult to defend against that without any sort of pull down for Zerglings. So Magic is actually going to be smart about this. He is going to be going for that pull first. But, in this matchup, just because Protoss has to drop that early forge, early on, if they don't want to deal with, extremely early Zergling pressure, there really isn't a lot of, economical reasons why you would really need to go for that hatchery first in this matchup.
Yeah, and surprisingly enough, Shinya is actually cannoning the natural. I thought he accidentally let the pylon finish. Magic is going to see the cannon here, and he's probably going to pull a couple of drones here. Yeah, he's pulling the third one and the fourth one with 4 drones. He's able to kill it quite quickly, and Shinya's actually using his probe to try and harass this. And at the same time, Magic has taken expansion down on the southern side. I mean, how do you think this is going to work out here?
I actually don't know. I mean, if these photon cannons might not finish. No, one of them is actually going to finish, and if you can actually get any drone kills with this, this will actually be huge. One drone does actually go down, so one drone is going to go down. The second photon cannon might actually finish, but he is denying a lot of mining time with this. That hatchery is actually going to get up, but the Nexus is actually being delayed quite substantially also with this build, so I actually don't really know how I feel about this right now. It is 17 probes to 13 drones right now in our Protoss player's favor, but he did... his Nexus has been delayed quite heavily by that, so Magic will be able to catch up. Right after this pylon goes down, he'll be able to drop that third hatchery, and he'll actually be able to get right back into this.
Yeah, and what I like what Magic did there is he sent one Zergling to start beating down the pylon, and then he sent a couple of Zerglings down to his third to make sure there were no more photon tanks coming up. One thing to note, though, if you look at the resources lost, Shinya is down 211 resources right now, so I really don't think that was worth it. He did have to delay his Nexus, and now he is supply capped, and he doesn't have a pylon in production. He has the Nexus on the way, so oh, there we go. Pylon did just finish, so I'll be able to get a couple more probes up, but I actually don't think it was worth it.
Yeah, it actually says 361 resources lost on my unit's lost tab right now. So that it is a substantial amount of resources invested into that. But he did delay the third base for our Zerg player. Zerg likes to go for that fast third hatchery against Protoss, following up that forge fast expand. So he did actually delay that third hatchery quite a bit, and he does still have a slight worker lead. So you're right, he did lose a lot of resources for that, but I don't really think it's all that big of a deal at the moment.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it plans out. It definitely delayed his gateway a little bit, which of course, with Protoss right now, the main strategy is 2-base timing. Protoss are not taking any risks. They're not willing to go to the end game against Zerg. They really like to do these 2-base timings, especially on a map like Cloud Kingdom. So, delaying his tech a little bit, it probably won't hurt him too much, but we're looking, he already has speed on the way. He has 3 command centers. He has 3 command centers. He has 3 hatcheries down. And, Shinya is in a pretty good spot. We'll have to see where he's going to go with this.
For Magic, we actually have... I was just noticing that he had actually made quite a few Zerglings, and now we actually have a Baneling nest going down. So we are actually going to be seeing something out of Magic that I actually saw Quantic Hawk do a lot of when I was casting a show match of his not too long ago. We actually might see a very heavy Zergling Baneling bust, and this actually goes right back into something that Wolf and Kaldor were actually talking about recently in the GSTL. A lot of Protoss players have been really heavily neglecting a lot of early sentries, which is normally what you would need against something like a Zergling Baneling bust. So I actually think this is going to do quite a bit of damage, especially considering that for our Protoss player, he is dropping down that Stargate. This Stargate is not going to be very useful at all for the build that Magic is about to throw on Shinya right now.
And as well, Shinya was supply capped. He's been supply capped for about 30 seconds now. He chrono boosted a sentry that wasn't constructing, so he has a couple of zealots and a sentry. It's going to be one force field here. Has he morphed a Baneling? as of yet. Here they come from
Yeah,
the left side.
here
It
they
looks like
come.
he's going to try and connect in here. Is he going to go for the pylon? That would be his best target. Is he going to drop force field? Force field does go down, but he has nothing else to follow this up. And I mean, the Stargate is now done, but
This Stargate, though, is kind of a weird tech decision for Shinya, though, because he might be able to go on offense with the single Void Ray, but this Void Ray is not going to be very useful at all for actually defending this Baneling bust. So another good force field does go down for Shinya, really preventing a lot of those Banelings from making any sort of damage to the pylon. That pylon is down to the yellow, and a lot of photon cannons have actually been constructed behind this, so I don't actually know if this is going to work for Magic. So now we are going to have some Stargate units coming out onto the field for Shinya, and for Magic, he is just now starting that Evolution Chamber, so that first Void Ray will be out before any sort of Evolution Chamber or any sort of Spore Crawlers are actually down on the field, and this is actually going to force Magic to retreat back to his base.
yeah, once the second wave did not go through, we saw him start joining immediately. He knew this wasn't going to go through, and he actually wasted a couple Banelings on the rocks there, so a little bit of a slip up, and now he's just going to try and drone up behind this. Are we going to see him shoot up to a layer, or is he going to try and drone up? Looking at the workers tab right now, we're at 31 to 39, so Shinya's ahead by 10 probes right now.
Yeah, Shinya is holding on to that worker lead that he established earlier on. He is actually managing to kill 2 of Magic's Overlords also, which is kind of a small victory for him, because now Magic has to actually start constructing Overlords before he can begin droning again, which is just is buying Shinya even more time. We actually have a fleet beacon coming down for Shinya, so he actually might be going for that Zealot Archon early mothership style that you were talking about before, but this could also be carriers, JMorrow.
I think he is going for the Charge Lot Archon Mothership build just because he has the Twilight Council on the way. He has started +1 upgrades for the ground, so I think we are going to see him go for his very, very unique, very strong style. And now Shinya is going to try and harass with his Void Ray, starting to work on the Hatcher. Of course, there is a Queen here with a Spore Crawler, and I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to do too much here. He should actually scout the map, look for Overlords. There's not too much else around. He got majority of Magic's Overlords that were close to his base.
Yeah, he does have complete map control right now. Shinya does, thanks to the presence of those Stargate units. We have the Phoenix actually out on the map too. He's going to get even more scouting information on our Zerg player. He is going to recognize that we have no lair actually going down for Magic right now. And without a lair, how are you really going to manage to hold off a mothership timing with no lair tag?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to mention that, and the lair has started right now, but I feel like the time might be a little late. The mothership is about a third of the way done. These sentries might get caught out here. Force fields are going to have to be used. Actually not paying attention. The first sentry does fall. The second one might go down as well, and actually sentries are trying to retreat. They did get back in the nook there.
Yeah, small little victory for Magic actually managing to catch one of those sentries. But the bigger problem right now is the fact that, what is this now? 10 gateways are actually being constructed simultaneously in Shinya's base. There's the Templar Archives going down also. So this is turning into a huge, massive timing attack. These gateways actually being constructed like this are really... They're really just to deny. He denied all sorts of scouting information with those Void Rays, and then as soon as all of the Immortals have actually, or not Immortals, excuse me, Overlords were actually removed from the map, he drops down all these gateways. And I don't actually know if Magic knows this is coming. I don't think he suspects this at all.
I mean, yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, he did kill off all those Overlords, so his opponent does not have any way to scout his base. Of course, Zerglings can't make up. I mean, all the gateways are finishing. Warped Research has finished, and Mothership's on its way out, +2 weapons and Charge on the way. I feel like the response that Magic has right now, or the build that he's going with, is probably the best that he can do. He dropped an Infestation Pit, and with so many Charge lots on the map, that's definitely going to help him. But again, there's that Archon, and of course, there's going to be the Mothership as well.
Well, that mothership does have that audio cue that it is actually out on the map. I don't know if you've actually ever noticed, but if you are the Zerg player in this position, the moment that mothership is actually constructed, there's a big audio cue, the same way there is for a Nidus Worm. So Magic right now, if he was paying attention, should actually have some pretty good information that mothership is actually out on the field. But our Protoss player is up at 90 supply right now. He will start constructing a lot of additional units right here, and this timing is going to be really, really powerful. But Magic still has that supply advantage. He is denying the third base, or attempting to at least, with these Zerglings. But I'm still worried for Magic right now. I mean, this is going to be such a strong timing as soon as those vortexes are actually finished.
Yeah, and Magic's going for a Ling Infestor style. He does have some Roaches out on the map. He does have +1. He's getting +1 to all 3 melee, ranged, and armor. I feel like Roach Infestor is probably a decent composition against this, because the Roaches you can target fire down the Archons, where you can fungal the Zealots. But the Zerglings, I feel, are a complete waste of money, and he should really retreat here. Of course, Roach Beat is on the way, and he's starting to target down some of the Zealots, but of course his Mothership is here to back him up.
Yeah, without any overseers actually out on the map, there's absolutely no way that Magic can actually engage this army out in the open. He has no mobile anti-air, and he has no overseers actually out on the field that I could see just yet. No, he actually has no overseers actually out on the map, so detection is also going to be an issue for our Zerg players. First overseer actually just completed right now. This attack is going to for sure deny the 4th base location for Magic. We have 4 Infestors coming out on the field, but they're not actually going to be trying to save that hatchery. Hatchery was not even canceled.
Yeah.
And we have just a pretty strong unit composition for Shinya. He has 4 Archons mixed in with that.
Yeah, and I really like what Magic's doing. I feel like he's watched this style and he's getting a good understanding of it. Because again, I like the Roach. I like the Roach Infestor play, especially since he's getting early +2 armor. One of the things I noticed when Shinya played previously, he gets +3 weapons very, very early. He's already chrono boosting the 3rd one out, and with those early upgrades, he's able to crush through Zerg armies very, very nicely. At the bottom right, we do have another expansion coming down from Magic, but I feel like Magic's in a decent spot. Surprisingly enough, I really like his composition. I think he's doing the right thing here. A bunch more High Templar are getting morphed in. Is he going to turn them directly into Archons, or is he going to save some for feedback? It looks like he's going straight for Archons.
Yeah, with such a heavy investment in Archons, a single Vortex actually might be devastating. Well, actually, I think will definitely be devastating to Magic. But this army composition of his is actually pretty mobile. The Vortex Archon toilet maneuver is actually most devastating to Broodlords because they can't really do much about it in terms of mobility. Sure. But this unit composition for our Zerg player is actually far more mobile than that. If he loses he actually is going to lose 1 Infestor there. But some Fungal Growths have actually gone down on the Protoss army. 2nd Infestor actually does go down, and a 4th Infestor actually does go down. So all the Infestors have actually been removed, but he did force a Vortex. That Vortex actually didn't do all that much, only got a few Roaches, but I like the position that Shinya is in right now. I really do. Another 1 Archon actually did go in with all those Zerg units. This is actually such a weird engagement.
No Guardian Shield as of yet. The 2nd Vortex does go down. Surprisingly, he's actually throwing more units back into the toilet. I thought he was going to save it for a recall, getting more and more units in there. If he targets down these Overseers, I feel like Magic would be completely helpless at that point.
I definitely agree with you right there, JMorrow, but here comes the engagement. All sorts of Archons are actually coming out. The Zealots are actually in melee range of everything, but it does look like that very high Roach count will actually be enough from Magic to actually hold off this attack. So,
wow.
Really good hold by Magic, holding off that big attack from Shinya, but that Mothership is still a problem because he doesn't really have anything to shoot it down at the moment.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And one thing we didn't really get to see too much was the Banelings went off. That was a Vortex with Banelings in it. So those Banelings went off, took out majority of Shinya's army. And again, Magic's response is beautiful. I mean, Roach, Infestor, Baneling. If anybody's having trouble with Shinya's composition, that is the absolute smartest thing I've ever seen. Here come the Roaches now, and all he has is a couple of Archons and a ton of Charge Lots ready to go here. +3 weapons did just finish, now he's going to move up here. Magic trying to do the best he can to micro his Roaches back and forth to avoid getting AoE'd here. Focusing down the last few Zealots, and he should push forward and start target firing the Archons. The first one is going to get targeted down here, actually splitting him up. Kills the first one, targeting down the second one. The second one is going to fall here. Here comes Mothership and the Void Ray, and he has no detection. Yeah,
that Mothership was actually a little late to the party. If Shinya had actually managed to get that Mothership up to the Archons a little bit earlier, he actually would have saved them because, like you just said, there was no detection in Magic's army. So we do have a 3-base Protoss now versus a 4-base Zerg. That south right position base for Magic is just now getting some drones to saturate it. But this does look like it is actually going to stabilize into somewhat of a standard game from here. Shinya could actually start mixing in some Stalkers, could actually start mixing in a lot of other additional units with this unit composition of his. He is starting that shield upgrade for those Archons more than for anything else, but for Magic, his economy is starting to explode a little bit. Some Zealots have actually done a lot of damage. We might actually deny the south right position for Magic. Will he actually be able to get the hatchery, though?
Yeah, it looks like he is going to end up killing it off there.
Okay, so that attack for Shinya was actually held off by Magic, but now he was actually able to deny that 4th base also, so it now is still just a 3-base Zerg versus a 3-base Protoss. And most of the time, JMorrow, 3-base Zerg, you want to be at least 1 base ahead of your Protoss opponent.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also to note, Magic, if he was able to get Burrow, he would actually have a huge advantage. Shinya still does not have a robotics facility, so he would have no sort of detection against those Roaches during the engagements. As well, it looks like we do have Neural Parasite. I was waiting for this. Actually, Neural Parasite is going to be very useful. You can mind control the Archons, or Neural Parasite the Archons, Neural Parasite even the Mothership. An offensive Vortex could actually crush Shinya's army, and I'm wondering if Magic is, he is supply capture, he's moving on the map. Is he going to wait for Neural Parasite? I'm not sure yet.
Doesn't look like he wants to just yet. He wants to start trading some units with Shinya. If you can manage to take to lower the Archon count just a little bit at the trade of some roaches, that actually could be a huge thing for Magic. But that Vortex does actually go down. Archon's actually being thrown into that Vortex. But I still don't know. I mean, at this point, it is 2-2 Roaches versus 3-0 Archons. I don't actually know if this Archon Toilet will do as much as Shinya might want it to do, but here comes the engagement again. The Archon Splash is actually doing a lot of damage to all those Roaches, but the Roaches are actually taking down just a few Archons, but that engagement actually went in Shinya's favor. It is so hard to actually call those engagements because everything is so clumped underneath that mothership. It's really hard to see what's actually going on.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't like Magic's engagement there. As Infestors were in the front, they got picked off very, very quickly, and now he's down about 4,000 resources, and Shinya can actually push forward. I mean, they are even on supply, but the difference is Shinya's army composition is much, much scarier right now. He's got a ton of Archons. He does have 3-1, actually, with the shield upgrade now, and the Mothership is still on the map. He has not started to Spire. He hasn't really created anything to stop the Mothership, and it looks like Magic is going to go for a counterattack on the 4th base of Shinya.
Yeah, this unit composition for Shinya is actually... It's weird because, like, sure, the Zealots and Archons are really mobile, but the Mothership isn't, and the whole strategy is really based around all of those units actually staying together. So Magic is actually kind of outmaneuvering his opponent right now, just trying to delay as much as he can before that big army from Shinya actually approaches his 3rd base location. But the supply is right now 172 to 139, so this is still a pretty huge advantage for Shinya right now.
Yeah, I feel like actually Magic made a mistake there. Though he did get the 4th base, I feel like he sacrificed too much of his army. And at this point, I think Shinya is just going to roll through here. All he really has is Roaches. I don't think there are any more Infestors on the map. Yeah, there's 26 Roaches, and that's basically it. There are 6 more Roaches in production, but right now, Shinya's army is quite scary. He's got a ton of Archons on the map. Actually, his army is a little bit split up here, so a ton of Zealots are going to get picked off. Magic is pushing forward. Supplies are getting a little bit closer here, but actually Shinya might get a direct engagement here. Yes, he does, and all the Roaches are clumped up, so the Archons are doing tons and tons of AoE damage. He only has 1 Detector right now, so if he picks off that Overseer, he does not have vision here. Actually, Shinya, look how many Archons he has on the map.
That is
all the way
so
up to
many
12
Archons
right now. And I think Shinya may have actually broken through, and he's pushing on top of Magic's Roach army.
Yeah, that is actually 12 Archons out on the field right now, or at least it was until just a moment ago. All of those drones are actually just being completely incinerated, and I think Magic might potentially be able to hold this off, but even if he does, he knows that he's too far behind. GG calls Magic. Shinya takes game 1 for mYintent, putting his team up 1-0 in this best of 7 series. And again, JMorrow, that style, Shinya sticks to that style and he makes it work. I thought he might transition out of it at some point, but he is so confident that that style will work if he just continues hammering away at it. And even you even said Magic held that off really, really well to open that game up, but I think he might have overextended a little bit with the aggression following that. I think it might have been smarter for him to tech up the Spire, go for some Corruptors to mix in with that army composition, because if he had managed to take down that Mothership just once, that would have been such a huge blow for Shinya, who is relying so heavily on that Mothership for his unit composition.
Yeah, and as well, you know, his 4th base in the center got taken out, so he took the hidden one down to the bottom right corner. He didn't have his army positioned correctly. He should have either built spines in front of his natural to defend it and then have his army positioned in front of that hidden base, or vice versa, had spines down there. But basically, he left it wide open. It wasn't well saturated, so after that engagement where he threw away his entire army, he didn't really have enough resources, or larva for that matter, in order to reconstruct an army. So, you know, I feel like he made a great decision. I feel like he got a little overeager and maybe made a few mistakes at the end that really ended up costing him that game.
Yeah, I think he. I mean, the thing is that I think I'm trying to, like, you know, put myself into Magic's position, into Magic's head for that game. I think if you see that style coming up from Shinya, it looks like an all-in. It really does.
Yeah,
it looks like a big all-in. So Magic felt, or at least I'm role-playing Magic right now. Magic was like, okay, I held that. I can go on offense. I can win. I held off that first attack. There's no way he can really have the economy to have enough units to defend himself again. And the thing is, he was almost right. He was almost right.
Base Protoss,
that attack at the third base, Shinya barely held that. And the only reason why he did was because, A, Magic had no detector over there, and B, also, that single mothership was pretty much alive the entire game. Magic didn't really put any sort of direct pressure on the mothership itself, just the army composition. So, I mean, I don't know, but like at the same time, it's a really tough style to play against. And the thing is, I've only seen it from that guy, so no
Right.
Zerg could really have that much experience going up against that style. So we'll have to see if that'll actually carry Shinya through any more games, or if Impulse can actually take him down in the next game to put this back up 1-1.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to see. So, I mean, I really like your point about the third base. That definitely was a good response to counterattack. I mean, these are best of 1 games, correct? So it's going to be Shinya's going to be playing somebody else, or is he going to play Magic
Yes.
again?
Yeah, it's King of the Hill style.
Okay, so I mean, Shinya last time we got to see him kind of roll through people a little bit, and I'm wondering if he's going to start doing it again. I believe he took out 2 people before he fell in the previous series. So I don't know, man. Once that guy gets heated up, it's kind of scary.
Well, for Team Impulse, actually, I'm just getting the confirmation from Marine. We are going to be seeing a Protoss in our next game. So they're actually going to try for a PvP snipe in the next series. I've never actually seen Shinya play Protoss versus Terran, so I don't actually know if Buddha, who's the coach for Team Impulse, if he feels uncomfortable sending a Terran out against Shinya. But I mean, Protoss versus Protoss snipes could actually they happen kind of all the time in the GSTL. You see, because Protoss players, like, it's weird. Like, you've got players that are really, really good at Protoss versus Protoss and then are not that good at the other matchups, like Cough Cough Huck. Or you've got guys that are like really good at Protoss versus Zerg, Protoss versus Terran, and then aren't that good at Protoss versus Protoss. So it's kind of an anomaly in the matchup for Protoss players. I don't know if you have any sort of experience of why that might be.
I mean, like you said, it's a good point. There are Protoss players who are very good against taking out other Protoss players, but they're not good in the other matchups. So you might have a Protoss in your roster just for that one specific reason. But it's good to note that mYi did veto Tal'Darim Altar. A lot of Protoss players, and myself included, I don't like Tal'Darim Altar. It limits your play. It's usually going to be 4-gate on 4-gate, Crime and Protoss and, all that kind of jazz. So it looks like we are going to have Shakir's Plateau. And this is a good map for this. You can do a lot of different variation builds. Some players do early expands. Phoenix are viable. Any sort of robotics build. And even Blink Stalker timings are viable on this map as well.
Well, I mean, this is going back, now that I'm seeing who's actually chosen for Impulse, this actually does look like it might be a snipe decision for Impulse. I've seen Phantaxx actually called out, I think maybe 3 times for this very singular purpose of knocking out Protoss players in the ISTL. So will he actually be able to do it? Shinya has been a tough opponent so far. Phantaxx is a Protoss versus Protoss sniper, at least from what I have seen so far in the ISTL. So will he actually be able to accomplish this? I'm not quite sure. I've never seen Shinya play Protoss versus Protoss. Do you think that Zealot Archon Mothership style might work in Protoss versus Protoss? I think it might.
To be honest, I doubt we'll see that.
Yeah,
in my opinion, I mean, if Shinya is not comfortable in the matchup, we will probably see him go for a proxy build. This map is very easy to do because your opponent is either crosshair or cross ground. You can actually drop gateways between the 2 bases and warp in a ton of zealots on the opponent's side. And players do this a lot. You can also cannon rush on this map. It's very difficult to do. But again, in Shinya's position, he's up 1 game. If he's not comfortable in the matchup, we will probably see him do some sort of cheesy opening. Possibly, probably not a 4-gate, to be honest, not on this map.
Well, I haven't actually seen anything super cheesy so far in Protoss vs. Protoss for the ISTL. It's been pretty much straight up games from virtually everybody. So like that could actually be a bad thing. That could actually be a good thing depending on what kind of player you are and what kind of StarCraft style you like to see. But spawning down here in the bottom left, taking a game off of Team Impulse in game number 1 with his unique Zealot Archon Mothership style. We have for Team mYintent, we have Shinya.
And spawning in the northwest corner of MLG Shakir's Plateau, we do have Impulse's Phantaxx as our blue Protoss. Of course, it looks like he's being sent out in order to snipe Shinya to avoid him from just rolling through and taking a couple more games off of him.
It definitely could be the purpose of Phantaxx actually coming out here. Now, I've seen a few Protoss vs. Protoss from Phantaxx. In at least one of the games so far, I've seen that he likes to go for Stargate in this matchup. I think I've actually seen him go for Stargate before on this map too, actually specifically. So I think if I had to pick, I think that's actually what we might see from Phantaxx in this first game. He has some really nice Phoenix control. Remember that specifically, that he is very, very good at being able to stay active with those Phoenix while not actually slipping at his macro at all, which is a really nice trait to have for a Protoss player.
That's a really interesting to bring that up. I was actually watching a lot of videos today while I was at work about doing Phoenix builds in PvP. And right now it's becoming really prevalent. It's really, really strong. A lot of players are doing blink openings just to blind counter it because of how popular it is right now. And, I really like the Phoenix opening. I think it's a really cool build. A lot of players They get 3 Phoenix out, drop a Robo, and expand. And then we get to see 2 base play, possibly even to the later stages. So, you know, there is a window, though. The one thing you have to note about when you go Phoenix build is, let's say PhanTaxx does go Phoenix build, and Shinya detects it, he can do some... There's a lot of timings that can hit and destroy him before he can even get his first Phoenix out.
Yeah. I was actually seeing... I think it may have also been a similar game from PhanTaxx actually on Daybreak. I think PhanTaxx may have opened for that Phoenix build, and then his opponent went for a Dark Templar build. Neither side was really like scouting all that much to see what their opponent's tech choice actually was. And then PhanTaxx got like blindsided because his opponent, I'm trying to remember who it was, but he went straight for an Archon build following up the Dark Templar. So he went for Dark Templar, that got shut down thanks to some nicely placed force fields by PhanTaxx, but then we had an Archon Zealot unit composition, and the Archons can actually just smash right over those force fields. And he had PhanTaxx had Phoenix out, and Phoenix actually don't do anything against Archons. So it was a really weird game. I think PhanTaxx actually lost that one, but you're right. I mean, the thing about those Phoenix builds, they are really, really good, especially for longer macro games, but you are susceptible to all sorts of weird timings that you wouldn't be with another type of build.
So one thing to note, both players do have a Zealot. You know, Zealot first. This does say a little bit, but they are both building a Stalker. The very efficient way to do Phoenix right now, you actually do not even get a Stalker. You just go Zealot, Sentry, Zealot. It's really, really popular right now. So I mean, that's not to say we're not going to see Stargate play, but we may actually... Ooh, Shinya dropping a Forge. Is he going to get the Scout?
That is actually an interesting decision from Shinya. That might just be so that he can get a head start on his upgrades. That could also be because he wants to start dropping some photon cannons down to defend a rather early second base. I don't normally see this early of a Forge for Shinya. He is actually dropping a Stargate also, so this is actually going to be a Stargate versus Stargate build. This is actually something I saw from the Liquid Hero replay pack, and I just think it's so funny watching this sort of dynamic, because Phoenix, one of the strong things about them is their speed and maneuverability, so you can out micro things like Banshees or Mutalisks or something like that, but you can't out micro Phoenix with a Phoenix. It's actually the funniest thing in the world. You'll be trying to micro the Phoenix around, and there's just like nothing you can do. You're both you and your opponent's Phoenix will just die at the same time.
Yeah, it's important to know when you go Phoenix play, if you do encounter somebody else going Phoenix, the appropriate response, I've been reading about this a little bit because I've encountered it once in a while on ladder. People are saying right now what you do is you chrono boost +1 attack, and then you just continuously keep building Phoenix. And with the +1, you can actually destroy a large number of Phoenix with a much smaller number just because of the upgrade. It's just that important, which is just crazy.
You are, of course, investing even more heavily into the build, but if you know that your opponent is going for Stargate Tech also, I suppose that upgrade would actually be worthwhile. Also, another thing that's kind of interesting is in that same game from Hero and Inori actually went for the plus Phoenix range upgrade, and that actually played out quite a bit, because then you actually can out micro Phoenix with the Phoenix if you have that +1 range upgrade. But Hero was still able to take that game anyway because he was actually the first to transition out of that style. But for this game, we actually have PhanTaxx sticking to that Phoenix opening. He is actually dropping a robotics facility after that, so we might actually see an Immortal follow-up to it. And for Shinya, he is taking a pretty early Nexus, earlier than I normally see in this matchup, actually. I think PhanTaxx actually did just scout that because he's now throwing down his own Nexus, but the economy advantage is definitely going to go to Shinya.
Yeah, his Nexus was, of course, faster, so of course he's going to have a better economy. It actually looks like he has the Phoenix lead as well, up to 3 right now. Stargate was later, looks like he's been chrono boosting, trying to get his count up. They're both at 3 now, but of course Shinya's going to be slightly ahead, and now his expansion is done, and a robotics facility goes down, so we are definitely going to the later stages of this game.
Yeah, this is actually kind of crazy, like how much these guys are mirroring each other without even really scouting each other too. They're both just doing this on their own intuition. We have a second Stargate actually going down for PhanTaxx, so even though he has that robotics facility down, he's not really doing very much with it. We don't have any observers or immortals actually coming out on the field for our player from Team Impulse, but he is actually constructing that second Stargate, so he could be going for a higher Phoenix type build. We do actually have 4 Phoenix actually coming into the main base of PhanTaxx, but there are 4 PhanTaxx actually out on the field right now. A good focus fire from those Phoenixes actually was able to take down one of the Phoenixes from Shinya, and now Shinya is being forced to retreat.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you really can't micro this, so I mean, whoever's the higher count is definitely going to win the engagement. It looks like actually iMpPhantaxx actually does pretty nice micro there, actually pulling the one that was weakened back, and you might actually get this last one here, but it's going to get pulled back to the photon cannon. I'm actually hoping, I mean, he does have a second Stargate, so I'm hoping we are going to see the range upgrade, or at least get +1 here, because that would definitely give him a huge advantage. And now both players are, you know, just sitting back and macroing. iMpPhantaxx is down 10 probes at the moment, though.
Yeah, that earlier Nexus for Shinya, and he's actually been using a lot of Chrono Boost energy, also managing to get that higher probe count. This economy advantage for Shinya actually could be a huge determining factor in this game, but the Phoenix lead right now is going to go for iMpPhantaxx, so could he actually get some damage on all of these probes? There are only 3 Phoenix and a Stalker out for Shinya, so he actually can't stop this attack if it starts. One Phoenix does actually go down, so some probes are actually going to go down too. On top of this, there are actually no sort of countermeasures coming from Shinya just yet. Only 2 Phoenix are actually out in the field for him, so he's going to lose both of them, and now probes are going to start to go down. A photon cannon is being constructed, but it is not going to be in time to save a lot of those probes. But now, without actually any more energy for iMpPhantaxx, he's not actually going to be able to kill any more probes. He's going to be forced to go back and recharge all the energy for those Phoenix.
You know, I actually do not like this response from Shinya. He's going for Blink Stalkers, which in most cases people are like, well, yeah, that's the appropriate response. Well, like I was talking about before, if you're already going Blink Stalkers, or if you're kind of going Robo, there's nothing wrong with going to Twilight Council. But having already gone Phoenix, having the Stargate, and now just dropping the Stargate and trying to get these Blink Stalkers out, by the time he actually gets Blink done and gets a formidable amount of Stalkers out, he's going to get eaten alive by these Phoenix.
Yeah, there's just such a huge Phoenix cat actually out on the field for iMpPhantaxx. He can actually directly engage those Stalkers, which is like kind of a weird thing when you think about it. But I mean, this is kind of where we are with Protoss versus Protoss right now, and this is one of the reasons why these Phoenix builds have become so prevalent. If you get this huge air advantage, you actually are able to directly engage just pure Stalker count.
Wow.
Other thing is too is that he has pure map control right now. iMpPhantaxx does, so he can actually take a third base behind this, and it'll be very difficult for Shinya to actually move out on the map, knowing that those Phoenix are just going to tear apart his probe line the moment that he does.
Up to 12 Phoenix now, transitioning into Immortals. iMpPhantaxx doing a great job right now. He has his own Twilight Council coming down, and there's a ton of Stalkers on the map, but they're out on the field right now, so that does give iMpPhantaxx the option to go back into his opponent's main, take a couple cannon shots, and kill a bunch of probes. It looks like he's actually going to move across the map, and actually this time it's going to be quite nice from Shinya. iMpPhantaxx doesn't have too much yet. He's the first Immortal out, but these Phoenix are in position to help assist.
There is an observer out on the field for Shinya that is going to allow him to get those Stalkers directly into the main base of iMpPhantaxx. He is going to be able to snipe
Very
the
nice.
facility that has that second Immortal actually being constructed. So that Immortal is actually going to go down. But here comes the army from iMpPhantaxx. The combination of Phoenix and Immortals is actually going to do a very good job of actually taking down a lot of Stalkers. So a lot of Stalkers do actually go down, but the Phoenix count is actually still rather untouched. It's still just 12 Phoenix and an Immortal versus 13 Stalkers out on the field for our Red Protoss player.
Something to know right now, iMpPhantaxx is down 900 resources, Shin is down 3,500. So iMpPhantaxx is definitely making use of these Phoenix, done so much so much done. 14 probe kills, killed a ton of the Stalkers there. I like that Shinya ran in and sniped a bunch of the units, but it looks like he's actually going to blink underneath, taking out at least one of the Phoenix. But Shinya still does have this observer in the main. I like the fact that he took out the Robo facility, but then he stayed in too long. The Phoenix were able to pick him up and tear him apart very, very quickly.
Yeah, he did manage to lose a few Stalkers in that engagement, but that destruction of the robotics facility is going to make it so that if Shinya can continue to increase his Blink Stalker number, eventually there's going to come a point where those Phoenix are not really going to actually be able to do much in a direct engagement anymore, and there is only that one Immortal down on the field for iMpPhantaxx. In a direct engagement, if Shinya actually continues to increase these Blink Stalker numbers, he will eventually be able to come back into this, but not if he continues to engage like this, because I don't think that he has the numbers just yet to contend with the Phoenix Immortal composition of his opponent.
And as well, iMpPhantaxx is getting charged for his Zealots, so, it looks like he's actually going for a huge pickup here, picking up a good number of the Stalkers, trying to catch as many as possible, and then he's just going to drop them. Of course, he does have Blink set up, so he will be able to get out of there immediately afterwards, but no, iMpPhantaxx actually picking up a couple more, doing a great job, picking up a great number of these Stalkers here, and looks like actually iMpPhantaxx is going to get even further ahead. Looking at the resources lost, up to almost 5K right now.
This is what I meant, man. Phantaxx has some fantastic Phoenix control. He's been so active with them this entire game. It's really put like a damper on Shinya's spirits right now. But and the thing is too, like Phantaxx has not slipped in his macro at all. He's up to now 48 probes. He's adding gateways on to his production right now. So he will actually just start to be able to mirror his opponent's stalker count in just a moment, especially if Shinya continues to bleed stalkers in those engagements.
Yeah, and he's going for charge. He's getting the Immortals. Very, very appropriate responses. I would actually like to see him start going towards Colossi production. He is starting to get a Forge, so we're going to see some upgrades. But of course, if he was able to get a decent Colossi count with the Immortals and the charge lots, he would basically be able to seal the deal against Shinya.
He's actually going to start mixing in Archons too, which could actually be just as good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, there is really only nothing but Blink Stalkers out on the field for Shinya. He's actually going to go for another engagement. He is going to blink into the main base with those Stalkers, snipe the robotic facility once again. He really wants to make sure that he can keep this Immortal count down, but he is going to lose at least one Stalker. I think one Stalker does go down. Will a second go down? A second one does go down before he's able to blink out of the base, but two Stalkers actually are stuck. They were not actually able to blink out at the same time as their brothers, and I think those Phoenix actually did do some damage to the main base of Shinya while all that was down. Another Phoenix does actually get picked off by those Stalkers in the main, but now at this point, Phantaxx is transitioning out of this Phoenix build. He's going straight for Immortals, Archons, and Stalkers, and this unit composition for Phantaxx is actually really, really strong right now. I don't actually know if Shinya can hold this off without Colossus.
You know, I really like this from Phantaxx. I think he's had enough of this harass with these Blink Stalkers from Shinya. I feel like if Phantaxx pushes right now, Shinya's basically done for. I don't think he could be able to hold against this. I mean, he has charge lots, he's getting upgrades. We have 6 charge lots, 5 Archons, 3 Immortals. Just that alone with the Stalkers mixed in, and he's going to have Guardian Shield. This is going to be quite scary from Phantaxx.
The one thing that Shinya does have going for him is that he does have an upgrade lead on his opponent. He does have +2 weapon attacks on those Stalkers. So with fantastic Blink Micro, he could actually remain cost efficient with them. But again, he keeps bleeding away some of these Stalkers in these engagements. I don't actually know if this is really what he should be doing right now, but he is going to force that engagement anyway. But a lot of Stalkers are actually being picked up by those Phoenix, but those Archons can't actually join the fight because of the positioning of the Stalkers on the right side of Phantaxx's main base. So a lot of those Stalkers are actually going to get out of there. I think that Phantaxx could have actually killed more of them if those Archons were able to join the battle, but they weren't. 2 Stalkers are actually still stuck up in Phantaxx's base. They are probably going to get picked off by those Phoenixes. There they go. A third base is actually being established for Shinya at the moment, but the timing for Phantaxx is actually good as it's going to get. He is going to start pushing with this very high-tech unit composition that he has, and the supply is still in Phantaxx's favor, so I don't actually know if Shinya can hold this with just Blink Stalkers.
Yeah, and the Observer was picked off, so there's no more harass going on from Shinya. I feel like Phantaxx is going to be able to roll up here. I mean, with those 5 Archons, he's getting +1 shield, another Mortal on the way. That'll put him up to 4. Guardian Shield, Stalkers, and Charge Lots. That is a scary composition. A pylon wall is being thrown down, so that's kind of a nice maneuver by Shinya, but it looks like Phantaxx is just going to ignore it and try and go down here. I like this this gateway wall. It's actually very important. In PvP, this is really nice if you have a really good Stalker count versus a player who's going for Charge Lots, because it does blow their charge, it does waste some of their time, but it looks like this actually might hurt Shinya a little bit because he is kind of trapped in the corner. Phantaxx getting ready here. A War Prism is on the way, and he's taking a 3rd base as well.
Yeah, he did have charge actually finished for Shinya as well as a Templar Archive, so he could actually mimic his opponent's unit composition. And again, at this point, if Shinya actually continues to increase his supply, he does have that weapon upgrade that actually could play a huge part in this battle. So if he's actually able to get up an Archon composition to actually mimic his opponent, I think that actually might be a determining factor, but it looks like we might have an engagement on the left side of Shinya's 3rd base location. And in these sorts of positions, the very high Stalker count, like you just said, could actually play a huge difference in the battle. More Zealots are actually being morphed in, and Phantaxx is actually losing the supply advantage as this continues to go on. He's at 171 supply, but Shinya's supply is continuing to increase.
Yeah, I feel like Phantaxx is being very indecisive right now. I actually don't like this from him right now. He's behind on the base, of course. Shinya's base is now up and running. And here comes the engagement. Finally, Phantaxx actually pushing forward. The Phoenix are going to help try and pick up some of these Stalkers. The Archons of Shinya are actually doing quite a bit of damage. And it actually looks like Shinya's doing quite a nice job here. Not blinking the Stalkers back. There he goes. Guardian Shield has not been activated. There's the first one. Still, the Phoenix are on the field here. And it looks like Shinya might push forward here. The 3 Immortals are still in the back, using the Phoenix to try and pick up as many of the Zealots. And it looks like Phantaxx is pushing forward here. All these Stalkers are wounded for Shinya. Miss Blink from Shinya as well. So he's going to get picked up on a ton of those units. And it looks like Phantaxx may have broken him.
He may have broken him indeed, but his filler units is actually really, really low for Phantaxx, and a good warbit of Zealot that is a great choice is actually going to be enough to actually, I think, whittle down the Immortal composition for Phantaxx. If Shinya can actually focus fire those Immortals and get rid of them, his superior gateway count might actually be enough to actually allow him to hold off this attack, but all the Zealots for Shinya have actually gone down. 2 Immortals are still alive for Phantaxx. He still has even Phoenixes left in that unit composition from earlier in the game. Those pylons do actually go down, so those gateways at the third base are actually going to be unpowered, not allowing him to actually continue in producing any units out of those for this battle. But I think at this point, I think we might actually be done. Oh wait, we do have some Archons actually out on the field also for Shinya, so he's actually going to try and save this Nexus. I think it might be a good idea for him to just lose it, but he is going to try and force the engagement.
Actually, losing one of the Immortals there, you know, it looks like he's actually going to push forward here. The Zealots are getting AoE down by the Archon, and a couple of them are wasting fires onto the pylons as well. So it actually looks like Phantaxx may miss a little bit of micro here. A bunch of units are warped in by Shinya from behind, so the Zealots are going to get good position here. And actually, Shinya might hold this. He actually might be able to blink forward here, pick off the remainder of these Phoenix, and it looks like another warping of Zealots is coming in. The plus, I guess that +2 shield still is not done, and Shinya is just holding on for every breath he can take.
The upgrades, man, the upgrades are what he needed in this scrappy engagement, but I think that additional warp-in might actually be enough to force his opponent out. Phantaxx has been officially forced out of Shinya's main base. The supply is 77 to 81. But behind all of this, Phantaxx did actually manage to secure that third Nexus location, but Shinya, probably even more importantly, was able to save that third Nexus. I thought that he had lost it for sure, but he was able to hold on to it. And now this is kind of turned into even more of a standard game. I think whoever starts to transition into Colossus first will probably be able to take this game, but it doesn't look like Shinya's going to go for that. Instead, he's probably going to push out on the map right now with Stalkers, Zealots, and Archons.
I was just going to ask you that. How often do you see a late game PvP like this? We are 25 minutes in the game, and we still have yet to see a robotics bay. I can't think of the last time I saw this.
Yeah, you know what's even more unusual? We have +3 Protoss shields coming down for Phantaxx. That is +3 shields before any weapon upgrades for our blue Protoss player. I have never seen that before, ladies and gentlemen. That is actually such a weird decision, I think, by Phantaxx, but because he has so many, he's relying so heavily on those Archons, that could actually be a really smart decision by him, but I just never seen anything like that.
It looks like Shinya might be queuing up to take a 4th base at the top right, and yes, he does. The Nexus does get dropped here. He is getting +3 weapons, and, you know, again, both these players are just kind of sitting on Twilight Tech. We do have Immortals coming up from Phantaxx again, so a very nice transition. We do see the supply disadvantage, and I think that's partially to do with the Immortals, and as well his higher Archon count up to, actually they're tied right now, so, I mean, I'm just waiting for somebody to drop a robotics bay.
Yeah, I am definitely too waiting for that robotics bay to actually come down. What might be interesting, though, is that we do have those 2 Stargates that are left over from this opening from Phantaxx.
Yeah.
That if Shinya actually went for those Colossus, Phantaxx could actually just start chrono boosting out Void Rays to deal with them. That could be why Shinya is not going for any sort of Colossus build. It could be that he's just afraid that if he does, his opponent will just be able to kill them with Phoenixes and or Void Rays. But still, I mean, I still have never seen a Protoss versus Protoss go this late with no robotics bay. You're totally right about that, JMorrow.
Shinya is going for a Dark Shrine right now, and Phantaxx is already set up for this. He's got a cannon in the front of both of his bases, and so he will be able to defend this quite easily. A bunch more gateways are being warped in from Phantaxx, and I feel like the macro of Phantaxx is doing quite nicely here. I'm not sure how many gates he's on. He's got to be at least 15 to 20 or so. He's chrono boosting +3 shields. It's 220 seconds total, so that's quite a long upgrade. It looks like Shinya is moving on the map right now, kind of dwindling in his Stalker count, going primarily for Zealots. They're both at 24 Zealots right now. The one thing that Phantaxx has in his favor, again, is those 4 Immortals.
But at this point, too, Shinya is getting +3 weapon upgrades. So now it is actually going to be... I know this is the question every Protoss player has been asking themselves since the dawn of time. What is better? +3/0/0 attack Protoss units or +3 plasma shield Protoss units with no weapon or armor upgrades? We actually have an even upgrade advantage for both players, but they are just different upgrades. I actually don't know how this is going to go into direct engagement, but I can kind of see why Phantaxx is going for those shielding. That shielding is playing such a huge part in allowing him to continue his Phoenix harass, because Phoenixes, they don't really have that much health. They really are relying mostly on the shielding for their hit points. But we might have a main engagement coming down here. The Zealot count is actually in Phantaxx's favor, I think, a little bit. The Archon advantage is in Phantaxx's favor. The Immortal advantage is in Phantaxx's favor. Really, the only thing that Shinya has going for him are those Phoenixes. And actually, look at this engagement. The superior shielding for Phantaxx actually allowed his Archons to stay alive so long in that battle. And I think the Immortals might actually seal the deal for this engagement, and I think this actually might be the end of the game. Some Dark Templars are actually coming out on the field, but there is already an observer out to meet them. But that is actually a lot of Dark Templar just forcing back Phantaxx's army just by themselves, even though there's detection out on the field. This is such a weird game, JMorrow. What are we seeing here?
I don't know, and Phantaxx actually does not have another observer on the field, so these Dark Templars are going to rain terror on the third base here. I've never seen Dark Templar focused on Immortals. That was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. All these probes are going to get targeted down here, and I feel like this is the advantage Yishinya needs. He's up 20 supply right now. There are 6 Dark Templars just going to town on this fourth base, actually third base, and he might be able to just target down the Nexus here. And has Yishinya done it? He's up 50 supply over his opponent right now.
We do have that. We do have another observer actually out on the field for Phantaxx right now, but it is a little late to the party. That Nexus has already gone down. The fourth base location for Phantaxx is definitely going to go down too. He does not really have the units that he needs to save it. There are Phoenixes coming out on the field with those observers, but the Phoenixes are just not going to be able to kill the Dark Templar in time. And now those Dark Templar are actually being morphed into Archons. That is a really good decision by Yishinya to actually make the most out of those Dark Templar. But Dark Templar are just fighting Archons straight up in this game, and that was such a weird, such an epic conclusion to such a unique Protoss versus Protoss. That's just the word I have to use for it. That is a unique Protoss versus Protoss. I've never seen anything like it.
You know, like you were talking about with the +3 weapons, the thing to note, Dark Templars do 65 damage per strike with +3 weapons. So those Dark Templar, once they broke through any sort of shields, they were just tearing apart his entire army. I really thought Phantaxx had it, but once those Dark Templar really got in there, without the observers there, it was amazing to watch them just tear them apart. And so, just to note, I mean, that's Shinya's second win in a row. He's on a little bit of a killing streak right now. Hopefully, I mean, we saw the Protoss get thrown out in order to try and snipe him, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, it definitely just was not enough. I'm sitting here dealing with distractions out here in real life. I know you guys can see on the camera. I don't know if JMorrow actually can. That is actually that was actually just it's actually rather embarrassing.
Perfect timing.
You know, I think at this point, I think that game was just that game is going to redefine everything that I ever knew about Protoss versus Protoss. I never thought I'd ever see a Protoss versus Protoss go 31 minutes and not a single Colossus is made that day. Like, just neither side. They were like, we are going to play this out like gentlemen. We are not going to produce Colossus. And that was, I mean, that kind of goes, like, there's a huge argument right now in esports right now about what Colossus actually do to the Protoss versus Protoss matchup from a spectator's perspective, and that was just an entertaining game. It was one of the more entertaining Protoss versus Protoss I've seen in such a long time, and I think that really has a lot to do with the fact that there were just no Colossus ever made.
That's a good point.
It was such a weird. I mean, look at the unit composition that Yishinya ended up winning that game with. He won the game with Dark Templar Zealot. That was his unit composition. Dark Templar Zealot. Like, that was. I don't really even know what to say, guys. I am so bamboozled and tongue-tied because of how that game actually turned out. But this is one thing I can say. Team My Intent is up 2-0 in this series. That attempted snipe from Phantaxx almost worked out for a long time there. I thought Phantaxx actually had that game in his pocket, but it did not actually. It was not actually meant to be. Yishinya was actually able to hold on and take that game. So that is actually going to put Impulse down 2-0 in this best of 7. They're going to need to start digging deep, man. I think we might. I don't know if we're actually going to see another one of Impulse's Zerg players. I think that we actually might see Deceive. I think that's actually what we're going to probably see here. I think we might actually see Deceive or maybe potentially even Bales. No, it is actually going to be a Zerg for Team Impulse. So you might actually see Hyper. We might actually see another one of Impulse Esports' good Zerg players. They are just stacked with so many good Zerg players.
Yeah, I was expecting a Zerg player. I mean, to be honest, we haven't seen a whole lot of Terran lately. I feel bad for him a little bit. So I mean, I'm expecting a Zerg player to come out. It's a good response to do, and I feel like if the Zerg player has been watching, he will get a good understanding of what Yishinya does. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Yishinya do anything different against Zerg so far. So I feel like like we talked about in the first game, Magic could have won that game. He made a couple minor mistakes that really threw the game away. So I definitely feel like a Zerg is the right response.
I mean, it definitely could be. It could just be that, I mean, the thing is that style from Yishinya all he has in the matchup? If that's the case, it could be that one of our Zerg players on Team Impulse actually has it figured out and is like, put me in, coach, I can take this guy. That could be what it is. We are going to see Daybreak as actually the map choice.
That's a good choice
from Team Impulse, which is actually a great map choice for this particular matchup. This is actually the matchup that where the 11-minute Roach Max actually first got popularized, I think. And I know that Hyper, if they actually do choose Hyper has actually been working on that build from. He's actually been practicing that build, so that actually might be what we see against Myiishinya. But Myiishinya is like his style. It's like I don't even know how to like pick it apart. I don't even really know what really works against it at this point. I think really like 2-base Muta, could that be what is actually like the solution for that style? I know Archons though. It's such a strange style.
I really feel like Magic has the appropriate response. Banelings for the Zealots. You have the Fungal Growth to help pin down the Zealots, and as well, I guess the Archons as well. And then you have the Roaches to help target fire down. It's definitely the right composition. He just made a few minor mistakes. He should have had more bases, a couple things that really could have helped him out here. But I really like this map choice. I think this is very, very smart from Hyper. Very, very good map choice. It's really depending on his style. I'm not super familiar with him, so I don't know if you have a little more insight on Hyper.
I do actually have a little bit of insight on Hyper. He is actually intense. This is a 15-year-old Zerg player, but he has been so solid for Team Impulse in the ISTL so far. He was actually the ace player for Team Impulse last week in that Best of 7 series. He was able to actually take down... I'm trying to remember who the last player was for StarCraft Ascension, but he was actually able to secure the victory for Team Impulse last week, so he definitely earned the trust of all the players on the team, so he is actually going to be the player chosen to take down Myiishinya, who is looking so strong today, and to like really, he has an unconventional way of playing Protoss, I have to put it that way, but it definitely works for him.
You know, I'm wondering if going for maybe like a 3-base Turtle as Zerg and trying to hold using a lot of Spine Crawlers and maybe some Infestors would be appropriate response, and then maybe taking a 4th and going for a Hive, especially on a map like this where your 4th base is in the center where creep spread is going to be very important. The thing to note, he does not have a robotics facility for the most part, so he cannot stop creep spread. Creep spread is very, very nice because you're able to use the Roaches and the Infestors in order to get a surround, maybe target it down a couple units, so maybe that's what we'll see from him. I think that would be a different response. I've seen Mutalisks against it, I've seen Roaches, I've seen Zerglings, none of it works so far. The timing is just so vicious.
Yeah, it is such a vicious timing, but we'll have to actually see if Hyper is going to be able to overcome it. It is going to be game number 3. This is the Indie StarCraft Team League with Vindicare and JMorrow. We have Hyper versus Myiishinya coming up on Daybreak. Protoss versus Zerg. Spawning up here in the top right position for Team Impulse, we have our blue Zerg player. Can he take down Myiishinya, who is up 2-0 so far in this series? We have Impulse Hyper.
And thank you for giving me the Protoss player. I definitely prefer this. So spawning down in the southwest corner, we do have mYishinya as our red Protoss. And like you said, up 2 games, taking out a Zerg, taking out a Protoss in a very, very epic game. Down in the southwest corner, Daybreak, PVZ.
Indeed. This map is actually one of my favorite maps, but it is starting to become the most... I don't even want to say overplayed, because I don't really think it's overplayed, but it is definitely the most popular map in tournaments right now. So I have seen hundreds of Protoss vs. Zergs on this map so far, and most of them have been played out virtually the same way. Zerg goes for that fast 3rd base, Protoss goes for that Sentry Immortal timing, and positioning and control is really what determines the outcome of the game. But
you're making that 3-base macro style sound so boring. You got to make it sound epic. He's macroing and droning.
I'm not saying it's boring. I'm not saying it's boring, but like I don't even need to go into detail of what it looks like, because anybody who's seen Protoss vs. Zerg on this map knows exactly what it looks like. But the reason why I bring that up is because Myiishinya is just not playing Protoss the way that you're supposed to play it. Myiishinya would be making Idris so mad right now. Idris would be like, "That's not the way you're supposed to play Protoss." But he plays it anyway, and he's like, "This is like, hey, Idra, I don't care how I'm supposed to play Protoss. I'm gonna play it the way that I want to play it," and it works for him. He is just like OGSMC that way. I'm not even. I know I said OGSMC when his name is actually supposed to be SKMC.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say
that's
you better
the way
be
that I know
careful
him. Yeah, no, that's the way that I know him. Though I mean, I can call him OGS, right? I mean, OGS is not really even a team anymore. It's just kind of like, you know.
Sadly true. Yep.
I know, it is sadly true. I'm still waiting to see all those other OGS players that haven't been picked up by a team so far. Supernova is still teamless.
I believe Vines is still teamless as well. I feel like Vines should have been picked up by now. I think it did get picked up.
Yeah, 4GG actually got picked up by Millennium, and obviously and see if it get picked up by SK even before OGS actually disbanded. But we do actually have this cannon opening again from Shinya down here, and this is actually still such a huge investment, but he actually does believe in it because this is actually the second time he's actually going for it.
Yeah, and this time the drones are definitely target firing down the newer one. That's that other one though. If you see that, the second one, it's got 7 seconds for being done.
It is actually going to complete. And actually, all the drones are actually being evacuated back into the main base for Hyper. So he is actually going to allow these cannons to finish. Some Zerglings have actually used on the field for Hyper.
Hyper is going to get a third base, though. He's going to get the expansion down in the bottom right corner, which is very important to note. If Shinya was able to deny that one as well, that would cause Hyper to bank so many minerals. The Zerglings are cruising across the map, but Shinya's already ready for this. He's already got a gateway wall going up. The cannon is now done, and there is not an opening here. Yes? Okay, good. Looks like the Zerglings are boxed out. The first one does get targeted down, and the Nexus still hasn't been started. There we go. It is dropped here, and is Hyper going to go for some sort of run, but I don't think it's going to matter. He's going to be down to just 2 lings with 1 at half health, so he's kind of trapped there now as well.
He is kind of trapped with those Zerglings, and he has been completely denied from actually being able to take his natural expansion because of those cannons, at least for a little while. This probe from Shinya does actually confirm that that third hatchery is actually being started down in the bottom right location. The probe count is actually even with the drone count right now, so Hyper is actually making a conscious effort to try and stay even with his opponent's drone count, his opponent's worker count, despite the fact that his hatchery has been delayed so much. But I really don't know how Hyper is actually going to follow this up.
He has to get some roaches out. I mean, to be honest with you, there's get roaches or extra queens in order to take out those cannons. Those have to die. I mean, he has to take third base. Otherwise, he's going to have to go for 2 base. I mean, this drone actually is about to get picked off, but he actually moves out of the way. Where is he going to take a base? Is he going to take the center base?
He might actually take. Yeah, that is actually going to be what's happening. He is taking that center base location from Shinya. And the thing is, we do still have that probe out on the map. That probe is actually building additional pylons. If he is actually able to, I mean, I know he's not going to do this because he hasn't started even started warp gate tech yet. But because these hatcheries are actually so spread out, if Shinya went for a big gateway timing and started using some of those proxy pylons that are already out on the map, he could actually just go right into any one of these expansions or the main base, and the production and reinforcements to be so slow and actually being able to help that he would probably just lose the game that way. But Shinya is actually not going to do that. He's going to stick to the style that he has been demonstrating in previous games so far.
You know, that's a very good point to know. I mean, he could actually get hit by some sort of gate timing. All these drones getting so low, that queen as well. And you know, I like your point though. I mean, Shinya could easily go for a timing here if he wanted to. The bases are so spread out. The queen count is so low. He doesn't have a roach warren yet. He's on 1 gas. Speed is just now started. But I mean, I feel like you said, Shinya's going to stick to his guns. He's going to go for this very, very strong zealot timing. I mean, it's his go-to build, and it works for him. I mean, I haven't seen it really not work out for him yet.
I mean, the thing is, I say that he's not going to go for it, but he still could. I mean, he hasn't started his Stargate yet. He hasn't started his robotics facility yet. He really has only started that +1 Protoss ground weapon and warp gate. So he could start dropping some additional gates and go for some big timing. And considering where Hyper actually is right now, I think that might actually be a good decision. But, I mean, again, it does really look like Shinya is going to stick to his strategy that he's been such a fan of so far.
You know, going for a Void Ray right now would be really, really strong. Again, without the creep spread, the queens aren't able to group up, and the queen in the middle is down to 50 HP. Might actually pick off a drone here. Does get 1 drone here. Might actually get a second one. No, the Zealot is getting fully surrounded here, and does end up picking it off, but he might get another drone. He does. Very nice.
That right there is such a brave Zealot. He's like, I'm going to do my duty. My life is for ire. I don't care if I die as long as I can kill some drones in the process. Evolution Chamber is going down a little bit earlier than we saw from Magic in the previous game. So, I mean, Hyper is very well aware of what his opponent has been doing up until now. And it doesn't actually look like, at this point, Shinya is actually going to be going for that. It looks like he's actually going to be going for a big gateway immortal timing. He has that robotics facility down. He has 3 gateways actually being dropped. So this actually could be such a strong timing. But Zerglings have actually breached the front of Shinya's base. These Zerglings from Hyper actually
very
going
nice
to catch Stalker and probably some drones.
Wow. That was some amazing micro by Hyper. I really like this decision. He waited till speed. He sat up front. Now he's pushing it. Sees everything. The Overlord does not die now. +1 is finishing. The Robo is on the way. But I feel like Hyper's in a really good spot now. Did he see the robotics facility? If he saw that, that is going to be very, very... Yeah, he is going to see it. It's right there. Oh, and he's going to pick up the pylon.
We have roaches out for Shinya, who is actually going to be able to finally get rid of these photon cannons and this pylon out here, which is actually going to temporarily supply block Shinya for just a moment. But still, the seconds are starting to mount, and Hyper is starting to produce a lot of units. So, I mean, the thing is, this front base is so exposed that I really am worried that Hyper might not be able to hold it. But at the same time, Shinya's timing on this is actually a lot slower than you would normally see had he just gone for it.
You know, taking out that pylon that was holding those 3 gateways along with the robotics facility has destroyed this timing. This timing is very, very precise. You chrono boost the Immortals if you're behind. He couldn't even start his first one. Hyper is on 3 base, going to take a 4th base here, clean up the cannons at the natural, and Hyper's in a great position. He's getting a layer, he's getting +1, he's going to follow it up with +2. I honestly feel like Hyper could push for the win right now. He has so many roaches on the field, up to 17, and with a couple more waves of roaches, he is going to have such a high count, and the first Immortal is only halfway done.
Yeah, Shinya is actually floating quite a bit of money right now. He's up to 1,000 minerals and 1,000 gas. He's just getting he was getting constantly supply blocked for just a moment there. But the thing is that, like, you're right that Hyper does have a lot of units out on the field, but he doesn't have all that many drones. He's only up to 53 drones against 50 probes right now. So if Shinya decided that he was going to, like, try and stretch this out and go for a longer macro game, I actually think that that might be a very plausible follow-up to what's actually happened so far. Because the Zerg opponent is not quite as ahead as you normally would think he would be, considering the fact that he's been on 3 bases for so long.
You know, Shinya's trying to take a third here. The Overlord is spewing creeps, so that's going to deny it for another 20 seconds or so. But I feel like if Hyper sees this 3rd base go down, he's going to push with Roach speed. And he could easily do it. The sentry count is very low. He just warped in a ton of them, so that's putting him up to 7. But to note, these are fresh sentries. They don't have a lot of energy yet. So they're not going to be useful. Another wave of sentries gets warped in. And, I mean, these roaches are very, very scary right now.
We have a +1 attack just finished for Hyper. +1 armor is halfway done for Shinya, but this roach count, like you've been mentioning, is just so terrifying right now. And it's really just sentries out on the field for Shinya. He doesn't really have much in the way of Stalkers or Immortals. A good warp in of Stalkers does actually even things up just a little bit. But the supply is still 174 to 108. Shinya's going to have his work cut out for him trying to hold this. He hasn't dropped that 3rd Nexus location. He knows that this attack from Hyper would be so much harder to hold were he trying to defend a Nexus on top of this, but still, that is 2 locations that he's going to have to use force field energy to try and hold right now. This is going to be so difficult.
I don't think Hyper should push at this point. He stopped the 3rd base. He needs to take his natural. He needs to start macro up on this gate. He's got +2 weapons in the way. Another Evo chamber. Probably needs to drop an infestation pit here or some sort of tech. He does not need to push at this point. He is denying the 3rd base. That's all he really needs to do. You know, Shinya is starting to burn through all those resources he had. He's avoiding the supply caps. He's just warping in all those resources. A ton of gateways on the field. Has not started charge yet. There's Blink actually. So he's actually going away from his normal build.
We actually have a Hydralisk Den following this up. That's an interesting decision from Hyper. But the thing is, JMorrow, is that I think he actually does need to trade away some of these roaches. He's at 183 supply. Even if he started going for additional tech, he wouldn't really be able to make anything considering the fact that he still is only at 53 drones. If he started going for additional tech, if he was going for drones and tech on top of this, he wouldn't actually be able to add all that much into his unit composition before he was maxed out.
That's a very good point. I actually like the decision of the Hydralisk for once. I know it's a very rare thing to say, but knowing Shinya, he doesn't really like to do too much robotics facility play. He has a couple of mortals out right now, but he has not shown a robo bay yet, and he has nothing to scout his opponent. He has no vision of any of his bases, and Hyper is kind of hurting me right now. He's not taking that extra base of the natural. It's very easy to defend. He has the creep spread. How is his drone count? He's still at 51.
Yeah, he's at 51 drones right now. He is really he's going all in with this. He is going to go for a 3-base all in with 50 drones off 3 base. He's going to be a Roach Hydralisk timing. And the thing is, there is no Colossus actually out on the field, but Shinya's supply is up to 148. This is actually going to be really tough to break. Those Hydralisks might actually be the key to this whole engagement, but I mean, still, this is going to be such a tough engagement for Hyper to actually win, especially considering the position his opponent's in. He does manage to get some Zerglings into the main base of Shinya, but there are Zealots actually being warped in also, so I don't actually know if these Zerglings are going to do all that much. The engagement does actually start at the 3rd base ramp location for Shinya. Hyper is actually going to force the engagement. He does get some Roaches inside the force field, so they are actually doing a ton of damage to the sentries, but none of the Immortals have actually gone down at all. It's really just been Zealots and a few sentries, so this is actually going really heavily in Shinya's favor, I feel.
Oh, nice playing forward, trying to pick up a couple more roaches here. Hyper, I don't know, he's following this up with a lot of tech. He's getting a infestation pit and actually slipping up, starting his infestors before pathogen glands was at that solid 30 seconds so that they do have it right off the bat. I feel like Hyper's making a little sloppy mistakes now. He's getting a hive, actually canceling the hive, and it looks like he might actually just try and sit on this tech here. He's still only on 3 base, so I don't really see a 3 base timing coming from me. He really needs to start expanding further out on the map. There we go, taking the natural. So that will give him a little bit of an edge over his opponent, but at the same time, MYishinya is taking a 3rd Nexus.
Yeah, he is also getting Colossus out actually on the field too. So the Colossus will be Shinya's answer to both the Hydralisk and the Infestor play from Hyper right now. Hyper hasn't even started a Spire. He had started that Hive just a moment ago, but then he did cancel it. So he really is going to need to get Hive Tech up if and only if this Colossus count actually gets too scary. But it is only a single Colossus actually on the field. Second one's actually coming out too. So, I mean, Hyper could actually still just steamroll over this army, like, if you want a clear engagement, but Shinya's force fields have actually just been so good. I don't actually know if that would actually even happen.
You know, it looks like Hyper is starting the Hive at this point. Groove Spines are on the way for the Hydralisk. Spire on the way as well. I'd actually like to see something on this map I like to see some Zerg players do, is they get a couple of decent Zergling upgrades. You get +1, +2, and they need to start doing run-bys. This map's very easy. There's 2 different pathways. You could run into the main, try and target down that Nexus, maybe even go for the natural. But right now, Hyper is sitting with a maxed army. He's banking a little bit of money and just kind of teching every which way while Shinya's doing the same thing. But I feel like Shinya's going to have the better composition in the end.
I mean, it's really, the thing is, Hyper could definitely still win a very decisive engagement if Shinya makes a mistake. But really at this point, I think if Shinya plays the way that he's been playing so far, it's really his game to lose at this point. He has a superior economy, he has a superior composition, and high tech is so far behind where Hyper needs it. But again, Hyper could win this clear engagement, but this is not a good position for him to be in. Those Colossus and this choke point are going to do so much damage to this Roach Hydralisk based unit composition. We do have a lot of investors actually out on the field, so if Hyper was actually able to catch Shinya in a bad spot, the Fungals would be able to keep them there, and they would actually just be able to do a ton of damage. But I don't know if he should really be forcing the engagement up here. Oh, Hyper.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this either. It looks like Guardian Shield has him. Look at the Stalker count. He does have that critical mass up to 32 at this point. Thermal Lance did just finish, and that is +3 weapons on the way already. And looking at Hyper's upgrades, he's at 1-2. That supports 2 attack, 1 armor. It actually looks like he's blinking forward. Excuse me. Yeah, looks like he's going to try and push forward, take out some of these infestors. Another blink forward could actually kill quite a bit of them. 14 corruptors are in production. Of course, there is no greater Spire out, actually forcing a couple of Fungals. And now Hyper is on the retreat, trying to get to these Spine Crawlers. But, I mean, do you think this is going to be enough?
I don't actually know, though, JMorrow. There are 15 Corruptors out on the field, but that is only 3 Colossus. 15 Corruptors might actually be overdoing it a little bit. This engagement is actually starting. Fungal Growths with Spine Crawlers are actually doing a lot of damage to the army of Shinya, but the Hydralisks and Roaches are actually not joining the battle just yet. Here they come. Drones are being pulled on top of this, but good force field is just trapping back so many drones, and I think this is actually going to go in Shinya's favor. This is not looking good for Hyper.
Yeah, Shinya definitely out-microing Hyper right now. He's got a lot of Colossi in great position, trying to target fire down. He's got Guardian Shield on the Colossi as well. The Corruptors are now useless, just floating above. Can't do anything. They can't shoot ground. And Shinya's pushing forward. He still has a couple of Mortals left. And the Stalker count, man, all the way up to 31. Still at that critical mass. Another Colossi does join the field. And +2 armor finishing just in time for the fight to finish. And now Hyper is on his back foot trying to get as many Roaches out as possible. But I don't think it's going to be enough.
This is such a scary army for Shinya that he still has left. It is 158 supply to 125. Overlords are actually going down. It is really just Corruptors and Roaches against this unit composition for Shinya. Shinya, the one thing that Shinya doesn't really have anymore are those force fields. He's been reduced to nothing but 2 sentries. I think those are the last force fields he has available. But at this point, I don't think it's going to matter. There are just too many units. These Stalkers are too heavily upgraded. I think Shinya might be able to take this game. The only thing that Hyper can really hold on for is Broodlords, but I just don't think he has the units anymore to hold this attack off anymore. There's the GG.
Wow. I am so impressed with Shinya right now. He is just dominating tonight. Again, 3 people have died at the hand of him already.
Yeah, Shinya is just playing like such a boss. This is tough, man. That is 3 really good players that Impulse has lost already to this monster. Who do they have left that can take him down? Are we going to see Deceive? We might see Deceive as the ace player, but I mean, I don't know. Shinya is just so strong. That opening that he's been using, though, like, it really, that's what I think it came down to. Magic in Game 1 committed very heavily with drones to making sure those photon cannons did not actually get up. Hyper didn't. And Shinya just played it out perfectly from there. He's like, all right, I'm going to deny your natural expansion completely with these photon cannons, and then I'm just going to force you into taking the 4th base location on Daybreak. And if that was the latter, that might not be a big deal, but that's not a real expansion on the tournament edition of Daybreak. That's only 6 minerals and 1 geyser.
Right.
So the entire time, even though Hyper was sitting on a 3-base economy, he was sitting really more on like 2.5 base economy.
That's a really, really good point. He took a risk, taking that 3rd base. Of course, you want the payout of it, and like you said, there's only 1 gas geyser and 6 mineral patches, so even with fully saturated, it doesn't count as a 3rd base. And he delayed his 4th for so long, he had a bunch of minerals banked up, just teching every which way as possible. I feel like he got a little indecisive. He may have gotten a little nervous, a little intimidated by, the fact that Shinya had this small force. He has, 2,000 minerals banked up, just drops 10 gateways, and just warps in this massive army, so... I don't know, man. I don't think anybody can stop him.
I think there was a bit of indecisiveness there from Hyper. He could have gone for a big Roach timing attack when Shinya's economy was low, or when his unit count was low. Like we were saying, when he was floating that 1,000 minerals, 1,000 gas, and his Immortal was delayed. That Roach push could have actually killed him right then, I think. Or he could have taken that 4th base location and had that economy up so much heavier so that when the late game actually did happen, he would have been able to get Broodlords that much sooner. But he didn't really take either option. He kind of halved into each one of them, and I think that indecisiveness is really what cost him the game there.
Yeah, and I think, I really like what you're saying right now. Shinya, if he didn't push at that timing, Hyper probably would have taken that game. He had so much tech available. He had Broodlords on the way, or at least he was getting a hive done. Spire was done, had the Infestor count pretty high, and he would have been able to tech. He already had a ton of Spine Crawlers out as well. So, I feel like Shinya's timing was perfect. He had +3 finished, he had +1 armor, he had a ton of Mortals, Colossi, he had the most beautiful army ever, and he had 50 force fields waiting in his arsenal as well.
Yeah. So many force fields, and Shinya has actually just demonstrated such a great control with his caster units for Protoss. He has really good mothership control. I mean, I don't really good mothership control. What does that mean? He has really good mothership control. He has those force fields were always just so good. He never really missed any of his force fields, and I mean, the thing is too, and I can't really understate this at all. We've been talking so much here about Shinya's style, right? His Zealot Archon mothership style. The entire time that Hyper was playing that game, I think that's what he was expecting to happen. So the entire time he's playing through that, he was like, okay, this is what I got to worry about. This is what I got to worry about. This is what I got to worry about. Oh man, there's Immortals and Stalkers. Now what do I do? He had this whole game plan going into the game, and then all of a sudden Shinya finally decided it's it's have you ever seen Rocky 2?
I have.
Rocky 2 is one of my favorite movies ever. It's that part where Mick was telling Rocky you have to fight right-handed this entire time, even though Rocky's a left-handed fighter. And then he's like, okay, you're going to switch right now to Southpaw. He's like, oh, no, I'm not switching. That right there is Shinya switching to Southpaw. He's just like, all right, I'm going to switch to Southpaw, and Hyper totally wasn't ready for it at all. Got hit with that left hook, and the game was over.
It's a beautiful analogy. I feel like that's a good explanation for his indecisiveness. He was expecting one thing. He probably practiced a little bit. They're like, you know what? We're probably going to see Shinya this week, and you got to be prepared for it. And they were like, okay, well, he does this build. And then Shinya comes out and goes, you know what? I'm just going to throw a curveball and completely just roll over.
Yeah, he hit him with that left-handed hook, man. And the entire time his guard was over here, it's like, all right, I'm guarded right-handed. Nope, left-handed. Just... that was it, and that was a clear knockout. And the thing is, too, I mean, Shinya might go all for gold. He might actually knock out Impulse in the next game if he continues to play like this, because now Impulse is down 3-0 in this best of 7. They are up against the ropes completely. There's so many boxing analogies I continue to use here. I'm just waiting for the moment where I can use a rigged panel boxing analogy too, because that's kind of in the news right now. But we'll have to actually see if Impulse can actually pull this back. I don't actually know who they're going to send out next. I mean, Shinya is looking so strong, and who they really have that can take him down? All right, so you guys are going to have to actually find out in just a moment, because we're going to go to a quick commercial break while we get the final decision from Team Impulse for who's actually going out. So once again, I am Vindicare, and with me is JMorrow. This is the ISTL. We'll be back in just a moment.
Trying to hold us off. The Nexus is probably going to be going down. That one Colossi, and there's some ridiculously lagging. GG!
Nice.
link yet.
Welcome back to the ISTL, everybody. I am Vindicator, and with me is JMorrow, and we are in the middle of a fantastic series between Team mYishinya and Team Impulse. Why don't you explain to everybody what's been going on right now, JMorrow?
Pretty much, Shinya has been doing whatever he wants, and nobody can stop him. He has killed 3 people so far. We've seen 2 Zergs and a Protoss fall. And I was just going to ask you right before we went to the commercial, I mean, in their situation, what would you send out? I mean, do you think it's going to be Deceiver?
I mean, here's the thing. They can't just make this pick depending on who they think can beat Shinya. I mean, sure, Shinya is tough. They have to get through Shinya if they want to win this series. But they got to pick somebody who can beat Shinya, and they got to pick somebody who can beat the rest of mYishinya all at once. It's not like that's why you usually save your best player for last. Because if you get into a situation like this, you have an answer. And I think in this position for Team Impulse, I really think they have to go with Deceive. Deceive he's bailed them out of situations before. He has played so well for them in the ISTL. I really think that if you were going to put your entire ISTL life on a single player, you may as well go for the player who's been playing so well for you throughout the entire season. I really think they just might go with Deceive. They might also go for some of their newer pickups. They might go for guys like Ender, some other guys that they've just picked up recently that I'm not as familiar with. But I think if they went with Deceive, I think that might be pretty poetic.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the best choice. I mean, I would like to see a Terran play tonight. It would be nice to see. We've seen 2 Zergs, we've seen a Protoss, and of course Shinya's been playing Protoss the whole night. So it'd be nice to sprinkle a little pepper on this, put a little bit of Terran into play, and see. I mean, what can Deceive do against Shinya's style? I mean, I'm not super familiar with him against Terran. By any chance, do you know what he does in most cases?
Shinya, I do not. I have very little experience with Shinya right now. I am actually becoming a fan of Shinya while I am watching him play today. So Shinya, even if you get this all kill, if you don't get this all kill, it's okay. You've earned another fan in me. I know JMorrow was already a fan of you. But I think it is actually going to be Deceive. I love being right for once. I think it actually is going to be Impulse Deceive. Now Deceive, guys, he has played so well for Team Impulse in this whole season. And the thing is, he's already kind of in the running for that MVP award that Legends of Elveron. Thank you to one of our sponsors at least. I'll get to the others later. That has been helping us out with. He already is in the running for that. If he can manage to pull Impulse out of this hole, he will have earned it. He will have earned it, straight up. He will have earned it if he can pull Impulse out of this hole. But that is what he's going to need to do. He's going to have to pull the most impressive run I have ever seen in StarCraft 2 semi-professional esports. And the first map that this incredible comeback is going to begin on is MLG Entomb Valley. This is going to be a Terran versus Protoss. JMorrow, tell me about this map.
Entomb Valley, very, very balanced map right now, actually. Surprisingly enough, I was doing statistics. It's a pretty balanced map, even in this matchup as well. I know a lot of people are not really a fan of Terran against Protoss right now, but what players are doing right now, like Marine King, some of the top Korean Terrans, they go for a command center first into 1 Rex plus Stim, and then get a 3rd command center. And it's this very, very greedy opening that a lot of Protoss players, there's a couple timings that can get it off guard, but I've actually... Will we see Deceive do something like that? Well, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, he's got a lot on the line. I don't see him playing too greedy. I see him playing safe.
You want to know why that works, JMorrow?
Why is that?
It's all about mindset and mentality, okay? Protoss players, the good ones, the most successful ones, have gotten where they've gotten from being passive against Terran. That's the name of the game in Protoss versus Terran, is passive. That's why Marine King style works against most Protoss, but Marine King got crushed by MC when he tried that style. Why? Because you can't be passive and greedy against MC. He will just kill you. He will just kill you. He's like, I don't want to be passive. I'm only doing that because that's what I'm supposed to do. If I can be aggressive and kill you, I'm just going to be aggressive and I'm just going to kill you. He's like Chalaiserg that way. So, is Shinya one of those Protoss? Is he aggressive? Is he a reactionary Protoss? I mean, the thing is that he has just shown that he has so many different facets to the way that he plays. I actually don't know, and I don't know if that style will necessarily work all that well. But I mean, if you're not going to be that kind of greedy style, how do you really play against Protoss on this map? They can take that 3rd base, and it is so difficult to break them once they have it.
Yeah, and you know, I like what you said about Shinya. He's definitely an aggressive player. Does he kind of move around to what your opponent's doing? Not really. He kind of does what he wants and then kind of gauges what you're doing and usually continues to do whatever he wants. So I think he already has a build for this map. He's going to open exactly how he wants to, and he doesn't care what Deceive's doing. He's just going to kind of do his own thing, and he's probably has a timing in mind. I'm guessing, I mean, he has a lot of games to follow it up with. I mean, on the back foot, we have McLeod. I mean, McLeod's an amazing player. I think that's who we'd probably end up seeing if, you know, Shinya did fall here. So he could probably do something risky here, take a couple of chances, and maybe even take the 4th victory for his team.
And that is definitely something you cannot understate right now, is the mindset of these two players. Deceive has the entire future of his team in this season resting on his shoulders, and Shinya right now, he can go home and be like, you know, guys, I carried the team, and he can totally have like a legitimate argument for why, even if he loses this game. So, I mean, Shinya's going to be 100% comfortable right now. Deceive might not be. He's under some pressure right now. We'll have to see if he can actually pull this through, though. But the countdown has just concluded. We are at the loading screen for this maybe final game of this best of 7. This is going to be a TVP on MLG and Toon Valley, and we have the reigning champ spawning down here in the bottom right position on the map MLG and Toon Valley. We have MYI's Shinya.
And then spawning in the northeast corner, we do have Impulse's Deceive as our blue Terran. Has a lot of work cut out for him right now. I mean, he's got to go 4 straight. I mean, that's pretty rough. That's a lot of pressure. And so you're talking about MVP award. I mean, what kind of award are we looking for here?
All right, so what's happening is that we do have a set of prize money out for the best team in this series, and actually we are in the money round right now because whoever wins this series is actually guaranteed some money from the ISTL. But we also have a separate $50 MVP award. Thanks to one of our sponsors, Legends of Elveron, that goes to the MVP player from the season. So it's an individual award in a team league. And it could go to any of the players from any of the teams, but just off of my own personal bias, I think that playoff performance might be a little bit more important. So even though we've had some great runs from all sorts of good players so far in the season, including 2 really good runs from Deceive, I think that if somebody like Shinya, for example, who might be pulling off an all-kill here in this playoff run, I think those sorts of performances are weighted a little bit more heavily just because of how much more is on the line.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that as well. And, you know, I like what Shinya's doing right now. We are going to see a Nexus first. Very, very nice build. This is what I do against Terran every single match against them. It's just a really good opening. There's no reason not to, especially on a map like this. Again, there are no... it's not force crossed. It's just... they can't spawn horizontal, I believe. So they can't spawn so their thirds are facing each other. Correct. Yeah, so, you know, that does give you a little bit more information, but Shinya can go for this Nexus first and still be safe, and there he goes dropping the first Nexus, and it looks like Steve's going to go for a 1-Rax expand. I mean, how do you feel about that in this matchup?
I actually don't like going Nexus first against Protoss, and alright, I'm a random player, and the thing is that if you go for Nexus first against... I almost never see it, because nobody goes Nexus first against random players, but when they do it, my favorite response as a Terran player is I like to go for Reactor Hellions. Like, you go Reactor Hellion against Nexus first, it requires a very specific reaction to hold it off. It requires some SimCity, it requires perfect force fields, because if you don't have either one of those, all of those probes that you were building with that Nexus first, you're just going to lose all of them. And then I'm just going to get ahead of you because I'm going to expand behind it. Like, that is what I like to do against Protoss when they go for that. I've also seen all sorts of other things like proxy barracks, bunker rushes, and stuff like that. And then I've also seen, you know, the new style, which is just like, okay, you're going Nexus first, I'm just going to drop a 3rd command center.
Yeah, I like that concept you got, though. I mean, the Hellion response is quite nice. I mean, a lot of Protoss players had difficulty with Hellions. Hellions were pretty prevalent in the TVP matchup for a little while there. But I would like to see the 3rd command center more so. I feel like it's more defensive. Yeah. There's no risk to it other than, you know, getting all in, of course. But
it's
if you scout properly,
it also speaks a little bit to, like, I mean, I play on ladder, and the players that I play are nowhere near Shinya's level. So, like, that kind of build would definitely work for me, but it might not work for Deceive because he's going up against such a more seasoned player who has probably seen stuff like that before and knows how to react to it. But for Deceive, we actually have him dropping 2 additional barracks right now. He's actually just going to play this out pretty normal from here. This is actually just a very, very typical gases expand.
Yeah, he's going for 3x off 2 base. Very safe, almost standard in this matchup. We do have him getting that gas. What is he going to use on him? We'll have to see in a minute here. We're probably going to see a Tech Lab thrown down. There's the Tech Lab. So probably an early stim. And I wonder if he's going to throw down a 3rd command center.
It is going to be an earlier stim. He might just be going for like a big medevac marine stim timing, or this could be something a little bit like, you know, crazy, like that could be for concussive shells, and he could be going for some earlier marauders. Actually, that actually is exactly what it is. So he's going to be going for some very early aggression. And the thing is, when you have these marauders and marines out, you can actually micro against unupgraded gateway units all day with concussive shells, even if you don't have stim. The only thing you really have to worry about is those force fields. And if you can dodge those, if you can dodge a force field, you can kind of zealot. That's just the way that it's going to work.
Are we going to see a robotics facility come down? There's the scan from Deceive. I feel like the scan was a little bit early. It's at the 6-minute mark, which is where a lot of players do it. But now Shinya sees the scan. He goes, okay, I'm just going to wait a second, wait till the scan wears off, and now I'm going to drop my tech. And there's 3 extra gateways going down. Actually, 4 extra gateways, going up to 6 right now. Warp Theory Research is 3/4 of the way done, and I feel like this timing from Deceive is probably going to get shut down here.
That's actually 7 gateways coming up for Shinya. This is definitely going to be a big attack from Shinya, but we actually have Marines and Marauders moving out for Deceive before this attack is ever even going to get started, and there are only 3 Zealots and 2 Sentries out of the field for Shinya. This actually might be the timing that Deceive needs. If he pulls SCVs, he will sure be able to shut this down. But their Warp Gate is just now finished. 2 additional sentries have been completed, and I think with those 2 additional sentries, Deceive might be forced back. But does he know that his opponent is going for this big gateway attack? If so, he needs to start dropping some bunkers right now. He needs to drop some bunkers, Deceive.
Shinya actually did a great job of having that probe in the middle. Deceive did not scout it, so now Shinya does have this probe at the 4th base, so the northern side of the map, and he has 7 gateways. He's going for stim, he's going for factory. There's only 1 bunker, not even fully loaded. I don't know, man. Shinya is looking, he's catching fire.
This is so bad. And the thing is, too, there is almost nowhere for these bio units to run in this natural base because everything is so narrow. This is going to be such a strong attack. There are so many sentries out on the field for Shinya. He already has 6 sentries, 7 sentries out on the field with full energy. There is a starport being constructed right now, and if Stim and Medivacs actually do hit the field, he might be able to hold it with that, but there are just going to be so many units out on the field for Shinya in just a moment. He is supply blocked temporarily, which is going to hold off this attack just a little bit, but I don't actually know if Deceive actually has what he needs to hold this. Here comes the attack.
Yeah, and Shinya actually is dropping a 3rd behind this. Here comes the engagement. He does not drop any extra bunkers. Force fields do go down, preventing the SCVs from moving up. Sentries are trying to target down. That bunker has not been touched yet. There's not a lot of stalkers in the field as well. The last few zealots do fall. He needs to pull back here. Shinya has done quite a bit of damage. Kills off the bunker. Might actually push forward. Another warp on his zealots is coming. He needs to back up here, losing 2 sentries, 3 sentries, losing actually a 4th one as well, and actually losing a good number of them. He does not have any more Guardian Shields available. A couple of force fields are available. He could actually force field the ramp, and it looks like, trapping a bunch of the units. The zealots are trying to target him down, and supplies are definitely starting to show the story here.
Yeah, the supply is up to 67 to 53. Here's the thing about why this attack is so strong. Look how fast Shinya can replenish his army. Meanwhile, Deceive is only still on those 3 barracks. He only has that 1 starport that doesn't even have any medevacs out on the field yet. If he keeps trading like this, he's eventually just going to run out of units. But Stim has finished, and again, these are slow zealots, and Deceive, who has really good bio control, can just micro back against these so well. He's being so cost efficient against these zealots, but he has to be so cost efficient if he wants to hold this off. 2 medevacs are almost done, and I think if those medevacs actually hit the field, this attack will be held off. But there are no more bio units actually left. The final Marauder actually does go down, and that additional warp-in might actually seal the deal. There's the GG.
Oh, wow. Deceive actually let his macro slip during the engagement. He banked up about 600 minerals and a couple hundred gas as well, so he wasn't reinforcing properly. And as well, he saw the army moving across the map, he saw the sentry count, and he didn't drop any additional bunkers.
Yeah, I mean, with additional bunkers, I mean, Deceive held that way better than I thought he would. I'll be perfectly honest. I thought he was so dead when I saw that army moving across the field, and he didn't have any bunkers down. If he had those additional bunkers, there's no doubt in my mind that Deceive would have been able to hold that. And had he held that, the tech advantage would have allowed him to come away with that victory. There was a 3rd Nexus actually going down for Shinya on top of all of that. But, I mean, that is so tough. But that is actually going to conclude this clan war. 4-0 from Shinya, and
just amazing.
That was so close. I mean, you say that like, he let his macro slip a little bit, and I'm gonna say shame on you, JMorrow. Did you see how hard Deceive was macroing microing right there? He had such beautiful stutter step micro. He was saying so cost efficient with that army that there's a perfectly good reason why he didn't have the macro to actually reinforce that army well enough. But I mean, it just wasn't enough. He was so cost efficient, but 7 gateways, man, it's a numbers game. You just can't micro forever against that many zealots.
Good point. 3 barracks against 78. So tonight we got to see Shinya style. He does his Twilight Council, his Mothership, his Archon build. Then we get to see him play in a PvP where they both go Phoenix. Mike outdoes his opponent a little bit, expands very quickly, taking that was Phantaxx, correct? He ends up taking the game using Dark Templar in the end game, going into a third game against another Zerg player, doesn't do his normal build, ends up going Robo, somehow pulls it out, and then takes the 4th game in 10 minutes.
JMorrow, you compared him to MC before this whole thing started off, and I thought in my head a little bit. I was like, "Oh, who is this guy?" Like comparing this like my intent player to a guy like MC. And now I'm thinking about it. There is no other Protoss player I can compare him to after this day's performance. I mean, like he went 7-gate against Terran. Who does that these days? Well, I know one Protoss player that does stuff like that. Still, it is OGS. It is. I was about to say that it is SKMC.
OGS Shinya.
We could actually, that will actually be our new nickname for Shinya from now on. He is OGS Shinya. I know he is my intent Shinya, but no, he's actually OGS Shinya. And he's actually like, he's actually just, he studies the way that MC plays and he tries to replicate it. And he did so today with brilliant efficiency. So
I'm so impressed.
That will actually do it. So the finals is actually going to be My Intent versus Infused. That is going to be so crazy.
Yeah, I'm surprised Energy didn't make it through. I was looking at the results and then, wow.
I mean, we have VODs for that. If you guys have not actually seen that, we have VODs up on this stream. So if you've been following the stream, you already know where it is. If you guys are just joining us for today's clan match and you like what you saw, please hit that follow button up at the top of the stream. We have some sponsors that we'd like to thank because we haven't had the chance to so far today. We have Max at maxedOutstudios.com, who has been so helpful in helping make sure that we can get the ISTL actually going. He's been doing a lot of like really good graphic design work for us. So that is Max at maxedOutstudios.com. Also, Legends of Elveron, who I've been shouting out already for their $50 gift card for our MVP player. Also, if you guys like the music we played before this whole thing got started, that is by Fourth Angel. That is FORTH Angel. Also, Impulse Esports, thank you once again. I know that your team actually was eliminated today, but you guys are still awesome for all of the work that you do in helping make sure that the ISTL is actually going and keeps it going like very, very well. And also, thank you so much to all of the players and teams that have participated in this Indie Starcraft team. Like, it has been so fun to watch you guys play and show off your talent. And thank you, JMorrow. Thank you for casting with me today.
Thank you very much. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. And just to note, with Max, if you ever need graphic design work, if you like the work that is done, you can actually email him. And if you want work done, he will do it for you. Of course, he'll charge you for it, but it's some pretty good work. I'm really impressed by it.
Yeah, we have all sorts of really nice artists and musicians and all sorts of people that are just helping esports in their own way. And I'm just so thrilled that people are that passionate about StarCraft that they're willing to throw themselves out there to the community just to just to help out.
Yeah.
So, JMorrow, I know that you are also doing casting for the IPL Season 5. Where can these guys find you if they would want to see more of your stuff?
Actually, on Twitter, I'm under JMorrow Pro because somebody took JMorrow because apparently Jason Morrow and Jonathan Morrow is a popular name for some reason. But on YouTube, it's under JMorrow Pro as well. I'm casting next Saturday as well, and I'm sure I'll be casting in the future. Actually, it was a blast cast with you. I hope I do get to cast with you. And if I wanted to know if you were casting, where can I find you?
Well, I have my own stream on twitch.tv. That is twitch.tv/KTVidicare. I'm also on Twitter also at @KTVidicare. You can find me on YouTube also with that same alias. So if you would like to find me, guys, or if you would like to send me feedback on my casting, I'm always open to any sort of constructive feedback. Ever, that's the only way I can ever get better with my casting. Just type KTVidicare into Google. You will find all sorts of cool things for that, all the stuff that I'm participating in out there with esports.
Awesome.
So thank you once again, JMorrow, for casting with me. Thank you once again, Impulse Esports, for your contributions to this tournament. We will see you guys next time. Marine, when is the next broadcast? Okay, it is going to be either tomorrow night or it is going to be on Wednesday. So if you guys would like to know when it's actually going to be going out, make sure that you guys follow at Impulse Esports. It is at @imp_esports on Twitter. That for sure will tell you when the next games are actually going to be started out. So you can also follow me or JMorrow. I'm sure we'll be retweeting anything that Impulse Esports actually throws out. So thank you once again for watching, guys. This is actually over pretty quickly, but Shinya, he just earned a bunch of fans today, so congratulations to you, sir. That'll actually do it. Until next time, guys. I am Vindicare.
And I'm JMorrow. Have a great night, guys.
Have a great night. See you next time.
Trying to hold us off, and that just is probably going to be going down. That one Colossi, and there's the ridiculously lagging. GG!
Nice. Down to the big one. And those Vikings are going to focus down. All those Colossi are probably going to go down.
Yeah, he doesn't even have the link yet.
Celebrate the holiday weekend with Lowe's. Get gardening with What's 2,490? Now just $1,999 for a savings of $500 plus get additional. I'm not here 'cause someone told me one day I could be a star if I just write songs that everybody likes. I make my way to Hollywood. I'm not here for your opinion. I'm not here to make you smile. I don't doubt that your intentions differ from what I've been told before. I let my heart on paper. You can't buy my words, they're not for sale. Will you remember me when you don't see my face on magazine? Will you remember me when I'm gone? 'Cause I'm not Hollywood. Whoa, whoa. 'Cause I'm not Hollywood. Whoa, whoa. I'm not here 'cause someone gave me $1 million in a brand new car. I saw stars and pieces on this life I live, the things I've done. I'm not here to tell your story. I'll never sing your songs. I'm not here so you can make me into something that I've never been before.